What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
O'Reilly. You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge, just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
No music, no intro. Another hashtag Saints Twitter podcast episode. We're pumping them out. Joined as always with Ryan. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at ThatBoyWolf. We actually got is this considered big time? Like someone from the NFL Network decided to grace us with his appearance on the pod. NFL Network's, NFL.com's one and only Gregg Rosenthal. You can follow Gregg on Twitter at Gregg Rosenthal. He is a part of the wildly popular Around the NFL podcast. He does another podcast with his best friend. He doesn't even qualify to get like a stimulus check. Like that's how good it is to be Gregg Rosenthal.
Stop. You should be treating it as a big time guest. You got to start, making those big time moves. We got to up the production game here. You got to let me know more than 2 minutes before the show that I got to be on Zoom. It's like, what is this? Like my preschool class with my son. Like I'm walking around my neighborhood right now.
Greg just trashing our podcast.
It'd be too loud. It'd be too loud in my house right now. They're going to bed. Kids are going to bed.
It's 8:30.
What? That's too late. You're judging?
No, I'm just kidding. My daughter goes to bed at the same time. I can't even say anything.
It's new rules. It's new rules in the pandemic for real. I'd rather stay up a little later, sleep a little later. We don't have they don't have to go anywhere in the morning. It's probably the best single thing about all of this is that you don't have to rush out of your house first thing in the morning.
It's 8:30 later for you? For the kids?
It's a little later because I got like a 5-year-old son, and my wife keeps it pretty locked down, pretty set up.
So we're a day away from the NFL draft. We're gonna hit some NFL things, but we brought you on the podcast because Ryan and I feel sometimes that as Saints fans, sometimes you don't want to hear about Saints things. We're going to talk about the Saints, but as fans of the NFL, we have to get like a broader sense of view of the league and where the NFC South stands, draft, offseason. So I'll kind of start off in terms of with all the craziness that's happened within the NFC, the Bucks, Brady, Gronk, Bridgewater, Carolina, Falcons, or whatever. But like, how do you, before the draft tomorrow, where do you see the NFC right now in terms of a division?
The NFC South or the whole conference?
The NFC South.
I mean, I think the Saints have the best roster in the NFC. And they're the team that, if I'm making like kind of the list of like teams I'd be surprised if they didn't make the playoffs, which is sort of how I value it. They would probably be atop that list for the NFC. So like you have to start there with the division. The Panthers, the Falcons, the Bucks are, on paper a lot better. I think their defense is the reason why I believe in them a little bit more. They finally have some people in the secondary and up front, and I like what Todd Bowles did. So they're frisky, and I think either of the other two teams could be frisky. It's probably along with the NFC West, I think the best division in football. But man, the Saints. Sean Payton's feeling so good he doesn't even need to do an off-season program. That's how good he's feeling about it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Saints roster and I feel pretty good about it. Obviously I could pick it apart. Andrews Pete, or linebacker position, or things like that. But that's just a fan's take. But when you look at it from a global view, it's a pretty good roster. But I mean, with the Bucks, I mean, you're a Patriots fan. You're well known. And you know Brady well. You know Gronk well. You know that connection. I mean, realistically, if it works out, let's just say it works out. What does that look like for the Bucks? Like, what does it working look like? Is it a Super Bowl? Is it what?
I don't think you can rule them out. And, when I say that about the Saints, like, I'm understanding that following the NFL, like, the hardest thing to do is stay good year after year, is to kind of make the playoffs or make the final 8 teams year after year. And it almost never surprises me if any team doesn't do that, because it just, other than the Patriots for the most part, and it just doesn't happen. The Saints the last 3 years are as consistent as anyone. So, yeah, I think they'll be in the mix. But if you told me the Bucks that it did break right because Bowles and that defense are highly competitive, top 10 type of defense, which I could totally see, and that Brady's making good decisions with, a great cast of characters around him and winning some lower scoring games too, in addition to also being able to score, like they are absolutely a contender. But you could say that about like 8 or 9 teams. I really don't see, and I think last year played out that way, that halfway through the season you could see a ton of teams being in the mix, and that's just how it goes. And I think the Bucks would have a chance. Why not?
Great.
Are you surfing right now?
I'm walking around. Why? What's going on? Am I like?
No, you're fine. So what are your thoughts on? I mean, the Saints didn't add a lot in terms of during the offseason, but the big kind of piece that they did add to complement Michael Thomas was adding Emmanuel Sanders. From the outside perspective, like, what were your thoughts on them adding help in terms of additional wide receiver weapons for Drew Brees in the offense?
Yeah, I thought that was a great move, and I wouldn't be shocked if they got another in the draft. I mean, what do you guys think? I could see them going in a lot of directions. I could see them being the team that takes Jordan Love, which would probably annoy Saints fans. But sitting at 24, like, I could see adding another receiver to that group because they really don't have anything else that's screaming, and that's where the value might be at that point in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, wide receiver is definitely, from what we're hearing, wide receiver is, it's one of the key positions that they'll be looking at 24. And Jordan Love is a real thing. It's not, it's not smoke. It's like, like if he's there will be a decision to make. And we all know the whole Patrick Mahomes thing from a few years ago. Will Sean Payton look at that and like, will I pass this up again? I think he'd make the move. If I'm pretty much 90% sure if Jordan Love is there, he's pulling the trigger on it. That'd be fun. I don't know. It's scary, but it's fun.
He's not Patrick Mahomes, though. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's fun, and I just watched him this week, and he's a lot of fun. In some ways, he is just a freak, and I could see why a guy like Sean Payton could think that he could make him into a superstar. And who knows, he might be right. But Love has a lot more red flags in terms of making bad decisions. And he seems like that boomer bust guy that guys take with late first or second, and it usually doesn't work. But I can totally get why a team would do it because he's wild to watch.
So I know the draft isn't your expertise. You're no Mark Sussler, but
I'm into it this year. I think I'm more into it. I was just talking about this with my wife, not to cut you off. I'm sorry, Adam, but she said you're more into the draft this year than like any time I can remember. I think it's because there hasn't been any sports. So it's like,
there's nothing to do.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I mean,
Like,
see, people, but there's a lot with the kids. I feel like I'm busier and on some level because of the kids, but it's just like, when was the last time I wasn't like doing something related to sports every day? So I might as well do this.
yeah,
So
and
since,
go ahead.
I was just saying, since you're a certified draft expert this draft season, what are like just some of the general takeaways in terms of just guys that you watched and who you like, watching and things like that? Doesn't matter position, anything.
Just because it's the last thing I did, I was thinking about the running backs. How I do think that there's a time in the draft where these running backs have value. I think this is a pretty good running back class, and I get not taking a guy in the first unless you think he's really, really special, and DeAndre Swift might be that guy. But I think the value started hitting you like in the second round, like a second round running back. If you need a running back in the right system, you want them on your rookie contract. He's going to end up having more value, especially a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who I really like. I like Cam Akers a lot. Like, to me, those guys are going to help your team more than a ton of the premium position picks that end up getting taken in front of you. And they're like safer evaluations. It depends what kind of team you are, but if you're a team that's like ready to go and that's going to add something to you, like the Bucks, for instance, who I think will be taking one early, like these guys, I think it's a good class. It's a lot of guys that would have been first rounders 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Like J.K. Dobbins would have been a first rounder 15 years ago. He just would have. Jonathan Taylor, who I'm not as in love with, he would have been a first rounder 15 years ago too. He would have been a top 15, 20 pick. It's just a different league.
Definitely. Yeah, it's I mean, I love the running backs. Obviously, the wide receivers are the showcase. Any wide receivers? I mean, you have any faves so far, or anybody that you can see just balling out on Sundays?
Yeah, Denzel Mims was awesome. I gave him to the Saints with we did like a mock draft thing on NFL Network, and I just thought that would be fun. That would be like a fun pick. He's so athletic. I didn't really see what the problems were with him. I know he had some drops his senior year, but it wasn't a crazy amount, and he was playing through a broken hand. And the athleticism, like when I saw that his 3-cone drill was like the best in the league, I thought, oh, maybe the Patriots might take him, because that's all they take is 3-cone drill guys. And he, to me, had like very little downside. His ball skills were like insane. I don't know. I fell in love with him, but I like a lot of the guys that could be available there. T. Higgins, if the Saints ended up taking him, like I could totally get with that too. I think he'd be a great pick there.
I am the certified T. Higgins truther, and I have been. So I don't think he's going in the first. I think he's going to go a lot like in the second, or for whatever reason.
Well, yeah, he's not like, for whatever reason he has his detractors, but I don't know. I think one thing I'm looking forward to, I hope people are right about this, is that the conventional wisdom of where guys are going is going to be more wrong than usual. And like, it wouldn't, like, if you told me T. Higgins was the fourth receiver off the board, that certainly wouldn't be a shock to I don't think that many people.
So I have a question in terms of kind of the NFC and the hierarchy. Do you believe that the Packers are truly as good as they were last year?
No, I'd throw them sort of in, after the Saints and the 49ers, to me, I would throw almost everyone else into a bucket of like, you might make the playoffs, you might not. Of course, you're going to have high expectations if you're the Packers or if you're the Eagles or Seahawks, but like no one else really to me are teams where I'd be stunned if they did not make the playoffs. And I would definitely include the Packers in that. There's a lot to like, and I think the defense could get better. It almost underperformed a little. It was very streaky. But there's something about the coaching staff and Rodgers hasn't quite been at his best that like they did not look like a 13-3 team. They felt more like a 10-6 type of team, and maybe they'll get better, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't.
I mean, I know you've been pretty high on the Falcons in the past. For me, as a Saints fans, we obviously hate them. They're a rival. They no matter what their record is, when we play them, it's we either lose or it's like it's a slobber fest. But like, have you figured out what was wrong with them last year? Like, was it a talent thing, or like I just can't put my finger on it with like what really went wrong? Because the talent wasn't that different from like the Super Bowl roster.
No, I've been wrong about the Falcons a lot. I've been too high on the Falcons. I mean, I guess I bought the Kool-Aid like after they made it to the divisional round and barely lost to the Eagles the year after they won the Super Bowl. I was like, oh, this team, it's young, it's going to be together for a long time, and like it's getting better. I think it's just going to be one of those teams. And it's 7-9 the last 2 years, and it wasn't injuries last year. You're right. They're just kind of soft on defense. Like Dan Quinn's defense has never really worked. They've had all the guys, they've put all the resources, and they're just kind of soft. And they've had a couple little stretches where they weren't, and they made the playoffs in those. But otherwise, he's been there 5 years, and they're pretty soft. And they're supposed to be a defensive team, and they don't look any better on paper right now. They look worse on paper defensively.
Do you sticking with the same theme of the Falcons? So there's like this like, I don't know if it's buzz or like mumbling that either A, there's been a regression in Matt Ryan's game, and then 2, and I don't buy this, but potentially
So you're just bringing me on so I can slam the Falcons. I get it.
So first of all, my number one team I hate the most, it isn't the Falcons. It's been the 49ers, but that's neither here nor there.
That's because you went to that game in San Francisco.
that is exactly why, Greg. 100%. But that said, do you buy into that? And also, do you buy into potentially the Falcons looking to draft their quarterback of the
future? I buy that Matt Ryan played worse last year. He's young enough. He's 34. That the way quarterbacks are playing now, like I don't think that necessarily means he's like going into some big decline. He could be better again this year, but he definitely didn't make as good decisions. Wasn't as accurate last year. I was disappointed. They like as badly as are paying them for soft defense. Like they weren't that far away from being a 9-7, 10-6 type team. They had a lot of close losses. They weren't terrible. They've just been very average. With their share of bad luck the last 2 years in terms of injuries and losing close games. But either way, you thought they would be better than average, and that's all they've been at best.
And then could you see them addressing potentially, I don't know if first round, but potentially taking a quarterback in the first round if that person's there and they feel like he's the guy?
I don't think so.
No, didn't they just pay Matt Ryan?
Yeah, I mean he's 34, and that used to be old, and who knows, maybe he will fall off a cliff. But it's like 5 years younger than Phillip Rivers, who just got $25 million. You know what I mean? It's 8 years younger than Tom Brady. Not that he's going to be, not that Matt Ryan's Tom Brady, but they're not worried about Matt Ryan. If Matt Ryan plays that bad, they know they're all going to lose their jobs anyways. He's their guy.
Now with the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, obviously you can't predict anything with them. I mean, it's a completely new roster, front office, ownership, you name it. You got Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. It's well known, as Dan Hansis points out, his 6 air yards per attempt.
Well, now I gotta go, and I gotta hear that on this show too. It's like every host that I go to is just making fun of Teddy.
No, I like Teddy. Teddy's my guy, but
Teddy went undefeated for you guys. You guys should love Teddy.
We love him forever.
Who knows? Maybe if he was starting that playoff game, maybe they would have won.
All right, calm down.
I blocked a lot of people saying that.
It would sort of be an honor to be blocked by you. I mean, I would miss the retweets and miss the jokes, but I would feel like I've really achieved something to be blocked by you.
No, I've been mad at your takes before, but you still hadn't got the block. So. With the Panthers, like, what do you even expect from them? It's like I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know. They're probably, I'd have to think about it, but they might be the team I have the least like feel of anything of what they're going to do, just because Matt Rule you think is going to be a little different than a lot of the head coaches out there. It's a little bit like Kingsbury, a year ago. The
Yeah.
difference being though is that there's not a lot of NFL coaches on that staff, even like assistant coaches on defense either. So
Yeah.
it's a total mystery. But they're not. You could say this about 26 teams. It's like it's not a terrible roster. People are saying like, oh, they should blow it up. It's like they have too many good players to blow it up. And if he's a decent coach, it's like it's not that hard to win 7 or 8 games. I feel like if a couple things break your way, if they were better than that, then he'll show that he's going to be a hell of a coach and it's going to be a problem for you. Like I think Teddy can win if the right things are kind of set up for him.
I mean, Joe Brady was literally a low-level
Right.
Saints offensive assistant, like a low-level guy. I barely knew who he was, and he picks apart the college, college football last year, and now he's a freaking OC, and it's like I'm just so interested to see what happens because I have no idea.
Yeah, I didn't even think about kind of the Saints angle there. I mean, obviously, I know Joe Brady's from the Saints, and it is crazy like catching up on these, prospects, because watching Jefferson and Burrow and their running back, in preparation for the draft, you can't help but appreciate their offense. It was like they were running, the Saints offense, a pro offense, and they were playing a bunch of like, college teams. I mean, that's what it looked like. But you can't tell if it was like how much of it was talent, because it was a very talented team. And how much of it is just Joe Brady about to come into the NFC South and be the guy that Sean Payton never saw coming. You know what I mean? Just just
crazy.
end it, end the whole thing.
Poor Lombardi, Joe Lombardi, the Saints quarterback coach, who was supposed to be like the next Sean Payton in Detroit.
Also, poor Pete Carmichael, who's just always just going to be just in his place. So, you are unofficially the hashtag swirl tendencies when it comes to black quarterbacks. So you have this love for them, Cam, Winston.
I mean, it's not a blanket statement, but yeah, it's fair.
So don't forget Gino. Like it's a long
Gino's
list.
big. I jumped off EJ Manuel pretty quick. I'm trying to think
of. So that said, there's this, mumbling potentially that I don't know if I buy it with so much Cam, but potentially the Saints at some point, obviously after the draft, maybe bring in Jameis and try to have another Teddy Bridgewater situation with him. If that ever were to happen, would you think that he would, accept being a backup at least for a season and could?
Wait, did you just say the Saints?
Yeah.
You were cutting out for a second. I didn't know. I have not heard anything about that.
Yeah. There's some whispers. In terms of, do you think he's salvageable?
Oh, for sure. I mean, he had his problems last year, but you can't be that bad and throw for 5,000 yards. You know what I mean, like he obviously has inherent problems that maybe the best quarterback coach like Sean Payton can't fix. But he's still better than a lot of starting quarterbacks out there. He still does a lot of things at a really high level, including like, some next level quarterbacking thing. That's the thing that probably drives coaches crazy about him. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a similar guy to me, who I think sees the game very well and calculates like risk on certain things just at a totally different level that people and it's helped Ryan Fitzpatrick, kind of max out his, but you don't want your franchise guy to be like that. I do think, by the way, Winston, if he went to New Orleans, I mean, if he was going to sign, it would be because, he wants to learn from Drew Brees and he's cool stepping back for a year and he sees the potential of possibly taking over. It would actually be the best thing he could possibly do, and it would shut up all the Taysom Hill believers, which would be a fun kind of side effect.
Whoa, Taysom Hill heat. Where is this coming from?
Well, it's just like everyone. All we ever hear, here's the next Steve Young, and yet, they're maybe going to take a quarterback in the draft, or maybe they're going to sign Jameis Winston. It's like if he was actually the next Steve Young, you would let him play over Teddy Bridgewater, please.
Yeah, the thing is, Sean Payton loves Taysom, but like ask Sean Payton about tight end Josh Hill. And you would think Josh Hill is like the best tight end since Antonio Gates or whatever. I mean, that's just Sean Payton.
Yeah, that's fair.
The only thing I will say for Taysom is that whenever this pandemic is over, he earned me essentially like a drink and dinner on you. So I'll always be appreciative of Taysom.
That's true. That's true. I said he would not get a first round tender, and you know your team better than I do. That's for sure.
Do you have any other thoughts leading up to the draft tomorrow? Any thoughts overall on? Well, I mean, we didn't even really touch on the AFC. Really, I guess we can go around, to quote Dan Hansis. Just quickly touch on the AFC and kind of how do you view the AFC as a whole?
Well, the Chiefs. I mean, I'm not breaking any ground here. That the Chiefs and the Ravens going into the year are the teams that, like I said, kind of are in the category of if they didn't make the playoffs, something went seriously wrong. And then there's a million other teams. There's the only teams. There's a few more bad teams, I think, in the AFC. To me, the bad teams are the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Dolphins, and maybe the Bengals. But I actually think on paper the Bengals could be pretty frisky, especially with Burrow. And if any of those teams make the playoffs, like something crazy kind of happen. Then after that, I think people got a shot. It's weird to think of an AFC East where the Patriots are just not going to be the favorites. The Bills are going to be the favorites, which is wild.
My last question, Greg. I appreciate you for coming on. I don't know if you watched any of the rookie quarterbacks, but I mean, are you Joe Burrow or Tua? Like who kind of floats you? Tickles your fancy a little more?
I guess Burrow, just because he's healthy. I'm not. It worries me when you're like talking about the number one overall pick and he's 24 years old. I feel like that gets lost a little bit, that he's playing against some guys that are like 4 years younger than him, 5 years younger than him. I mean, that is a massive difference. But when people are comparing him to Andy Dalton, it's like Andy Dalton is not making the plays on the move and out of structure. Joe Burrow.
People are doing that?
Yeah, people are like, well, in a worst case scenario, he's kind of like an Alex Smith, maybe an Andy Dalton. And I sort of get the Alex Smith a little bit if you put it yourself in a 2006 mindset. But man, this guy is so athletic, and it was just an uncanny season. You're just worried, like, I don't know, that the ceiling isn't quite as high as you would like. But Tua doesn't seem far behind.
So Ryan kind of tweeted about this. Like, do we even have a feel for like what Zach Taylor does on offense? Like, even after a full NFL season has been played?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, initially they looked like they were just trying to do what the Rams were doing, and then they mixed it up a little bit more. Andy Dalton actually looked okay for a couple games.
He really there's some games where I saw him and I was like, oh, like he's fine. Like he's at the Dalton scale. Like he's fine.
Yeah, in their defense, they were ravaged by injuries, and it's like, yeah, you're probably not going to win if you're the Bengals without Andy Dalton and AJ Green. Like you're probably going to look like a flaming, pile of, I don't know, are we allowed to swear on this? But
I mean,
what are you gonna do in that scenario? What do you got? You're the Louisiana guy, Ryan. What's your feel on Burrow?
Look, I'm not even like an LSU fan. I watch a little bit of them during, like if they win, it's like, okay, cool. But it's not like I'm some LSU home. I really don't care if they win or lose. But when I studied him, I was just like, every time I watch him, I just feel like he has the key traits that win in the NFL, like your arm strength and all that stuff. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but managing the pocket, analyzing, looking, standing behind and reading the field, the entire field, not just half of it, going through progressions, the anticipation, putting the ball in front of the wide receiver so he can get the, yards after catch, reading the safety, just all those little things that like the quarterbacks that really do last in the league, he just showed it, you know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
I mean, and Tua did too, to a certain extent, but Tua, not that it's a knock on him, but he was just so safe in that system. He's so protected. Everything worked around in his system. Where Burrow, his offensive line wasn't really great, and he had to be creative in the pocket a lot and kind of create on the move. So I just kind of itch towards him, but I really love Tua too. Like I think Tua, if he's like stays healthy, I think he's going to be a stud too. He's like a Russell Wilson, Drew Brees kind
Yeah,
of
like
mix. It's just So I like both of them, but I would sway towards the Burrow side a little bit. I just hope he succeeds with the Bengals. I know everybody trashes the Bengals and Mike Brown and all that, but I'd just love to see them, get a great quarterback and all out.
Yeah, I used to love their team. Like that was when I realized like I could like other teams other than the Patriots. I think it was just covering the league, but I love their mid 2005 teams with Carson Palmer and Houston
Oh
Zada.
yeah,
And I loved them kind of the second iteration of that too. The early part of last decade, and even some of the Andy
yeah,
Dalton teams. You want those fans to get something. I'm with you that to me they're very similar types of players, seeing the whole field, getting rid of the ball really quick. Tua's release, I think one of the reasons it looks like the system is so good, and the system is so good, but it's because Tua had it mastered so early. And I think that's the things that people talk about, that I've talked to and listened to, and you can see it in the game too, is that he processes and sees all four receivers and things so quickly, and he has such a quick release, and everything is just very quick, and it's kind of a hard thing. I don't think I'm not good enough like grinding film or knowing what the quarterback sees to really be able to truly appreciate that, because you have to just kind of trust the people that do know it. But
yeah.
that's where he gets the comparisons to Breeze, and that you're right, that is kind of what makes you successful in the NFL. The only thing is the injuries. I mean, 3 surgeries is no joke. I feel like the other two ankle surgeries kind of got lost in the shuffle because you're thinking about the hip, but that's a worry. That's a worrisome factor. Other than that, he seems about as safe to be like a solid, above average starting quarterback at worst as about anyone. I mean, Burrow seems to me like a higher upside and maybe a little higher risk, just because he was like older and it was one year, and you just haven't seen it as much as you saw it with Tua.
So we asked you all the hard hitting football questions. The last one I have for you is, how's the beard coming along, Greg? Quarantine beard? We out here?
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, we all decided to do it on around the NFL. How you look? I don't know. Like I don't know. Now I'm already sick of it. I was enjoying not having a beard, but we agreed to do it like as a foursome, so it's happening right now.
We got to talk about Mark. He's looking like Ted Krasinski a little bit. We got to, I don't know how we all have to.
I feel like that fits the brand though, that's perfect.
That's my guy. Mark's my guy.
Mark's hilarious. But we thank you for coming on. You are like, you're not a part of #Saints Twitter, but I feel like you're a member by proxy of, you're kind of close enough to it. So you're an unofficial member of #Saints Twitter. You can follow Greg on Twitter at Gregg Rosenthal. List all his work, read his article. What's the last article that you did that was worth something?
Oh, damn. I mean, I know I was rambling on a little bit, but shit. I mean, you can't have people on and just come at them like that. I am writing every night of the draft. I had some good GM rankings. I gave your boy Mickey. The last thing I wrote was good, actually. It was some GM rankings. Those take a long time. And I gave your boy. I finally decided to just give Mickey Loomis some love for all the financial jujitsu he's done over the years, and it's given Peyton and Ireland some love too, because if I'm gonna say they got the best roster in the league, and they are the best team in the NFL on balance over the last 3 years, which is weird to think because they haven't been in a Super Bowl, but they have been the best over the last 3 years, like combined. Like if you took them all, adding them up, you got to give Loomis some love. And the Pelicans are still in New Orleans. What
that Jeff Ireland text that he sent Loomis
during the Senior Bowl.
It's like the best text in history. Like,
so I know you're going to be crazy busy tomorrow. So obviously listen to the recap of the Around the NFL podcast, recapping the draft. What's your guys' schedule upcoming for the next couple of days?
I'm liking it. I mean, I'm watching a draft at home for the first time.
Oh, it's the best
in a long time.
It's the best.
I'm trying to think when the last time would have been, but it would have been a long time ago, maybe about 2006 or so. So
the year you graduated high school.
Because I used to go in New York. I think I went to the draft that year. I think it was probably 2005. But I'm gonna have my kids watch it, and I'm gonna be writing the column at the end, and then we got the podcast every night right afterwards. My kids are into it; they love football.
Are you guys going to continue doing a daily podcast? Because I mean, you spoiling us, man. Like I listen to it every morning when I start work. I play it.
Really?
Yeah, it's like after the draft, it's like there's nothing, man. Like
tumbleweeds.
Anything to talk about.
Tumbleweeds.
Yeah, I know. I have been wondering, like, I wouldn't expect anyone to even be listening all the time because I have less time to listen to podcasts now. I think that's true for a lot of people because they're not in their cars as much or on trains. But I think we're half doing it. One, because it's fun, but just to have something to do, and it is fun to do. I don't know if we're going to do daily after the draft, but we have not crossed that bridge just yet. We thought, hey, let's do it at least until the draft. Now that it looks like we might have a couple more months of this, it's like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on, Greg. We'll be in touch. And so again, you can follow Greg on Twitter at Gregg Rosenthal. Ryan, thank you for joining me as always, man. Having fun getting on here, just chopping it up a bit, talking about football, talking about the Saints. You can follow on Ryan on Twitter at ThatBoyWolf. Don't follow me on Twitter because I'll probably block you. And with that, we're out.
O'Reilly.
You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.